So next, let us see the effect of pressure and temperature on the cost and efficiency in case of a steam power plant. So as you can see in the first graph, when the pressure increases, the efficiency increases. But when it reaches to a certain point, it obeys the law of diminishing. In the sense, when it reaches a certain point, it starts to decrease. Whereas second, if you see the effect of temperature on cost and efficiency, as the temperature increases, the efficiency increases. It obeys a straight path. This is reliable because efficiency increasing is a good sign in case of a power plant. But the temperature should not go beyond 480 degrees Celsius because then it changes the physical property of the material. So there is again a certain restriction up to which you can increase the temperature to increase the thermal efficiency. They give working of the steam power plant, you have to mention the four different circuits involved in it. So the first one, as you can see, is a fuel and ash circuit. So mainly we are discussing about the fuel and the ash production in it. So first of all, fuel, which is mainly coal being used, is taken through railways or through waterways to the required area, and it is being stored. And it is assumed that coal is the main fuel for this operation. And now the fuel is to be fed to the boiler through conveyor belt. But we have to keep one thing in mind, that is, before feeding it to the boiler, the coal has to be bought to particular size so that we can achieve complete burning and get maximum efficiency and maximum energy. Therefore, before giving it to the boiler, coal has to be passed through crushers, sizers, dryers, and magnetic separators. Okay, and further, uh, the required operation is done, and as a result of combustion, ash is produced from the coal fuel, and thereafter it is removed from the boiler through ash handling equipments. In detail, we are going to study about the ash handling equipments further. Next is a air and gas circuit. So as we know, we are going to feed in proper proportions air, water and fuel. So air is also very important for the complete combustion of the fuel. So we are going to feed this air through the two types of fans. One is called forced draught fan and one more is induced draught fan. But in large case of a power station, it's better that we use both of these so that we can have balanced amount of air being passed. And before passing, it is fed through air preheater to extract some energy of flue gases so that it ensures proper burning of the coal. So thereafter, the flue gases consist of several gases and ash which are passed through a dust collector. In detail, we'll see how a dust collector is going to function later. And then finally, we are removing it. That means it has been passed through a chimney and then it is exposed to the atmosphere. So next one is feed water and steam circuit. So we know that the steam from the turbine, whatever comes out, it can be condensed or cooled into water with the help of a condenser. Okay, and from there the water is being given to a high pressure heater with the help of a condensate water pump as shown in the figure. So in this high pressure heater, what happens is the temperature is raised by the heat using a bled steam. Now what is a bled steam? So it is a steam extracted from lowest pressure extraction point of the turbine. Now what I mean to say is in HP heater, finally the temperature of the water is high. Now this water is further fed to a LP heater through a boiler feed pump, and there again the temperature is increased. Okay, means it is again getting heated, and then it is fed to the boiler. Now what is the use of this? Okay, uh, the use of this is from the turbine, whatever some point of some portion of the steam again we can convert into water and we can use it again. Okay, now it is fed from the LP heater to the boiler where the combustion process takes place, and again the temperature and pressure of the steam is increased, and it is expanded in a turbine and it produces mechanical energy. It's further coupled to an alternator, because of which it is further converted into electrical energy. And the last circuit is a cooling water circuit. Now we know that the steam, a part of steam coming out of the turbine, we are going to cool it by using a condenser. But to do this action and to maintain a low pressure, large quantity of the water is required. So the water can be either taken from river or pondage, but when there is no sufficient amount of water, you can construct an artificial cooling tower and use water as per the requirement. So last one, let's see the main parts of steam power plant. But before that, when they ask about the main parts of steam power plant, you need to include the same diagram which you have seen for the working, that is four different circuits. That itself you have to include here. So the first part is boiler. As we know, this is a most important part in a steam power plant. Here is where the combustion process takes place. We need to explain about the two types of boilers being used. The first one is water tube boiler and second one is a fire tube boiler. So in water tube boiler, the water flows in tubes and fire is outside. And in fire tube boiler, fire in tubes and water is outside. So these are the two differences. Now we'll see which is more advantageous. In fire tube boiler, actually they are cheap, okay? But even if they are cheap, there is more chances of exploding. The volume of water is more in this case and therefore it's difficult to control. Whereas in water tube boiler, it has less weight of metal for a given size, and therefore it is having less chance to explode, and they are easy to control also. Therefore we prefer water tube boilers over the fire tube boilers. And the boiler output is always measured in terms of BTU per hour. Now we'll move on to the second part, which is a boiler feed pump. So boiler feed pump is a high capacity induction motor. As we have seen, it is used to pump the water from a high pressure heater to a low pressure heater and further given to the boiler to undergo the combustion process. Okay, and next part is a air preheater. So air preheater is also one of the important part. What it does is it will extract the heat from the flue gases to the combustion air, and air preheaters apply either convection or regeneration principle of heat transmission. So next one is draught system. So as we have seen already, even air is one of the important factor for combustion to take place, and two types of fan is used to provide air, which is a forced draught fan and induced draught fan, which we have seen already in the air and gas circuit. So they will provide necessary air for the combustion process. As well, they are also used to take the flue gases from the boiler to the chimney. Okay, we'll see which is the next part. Next part is a economizer. Economizer is used to extract the heat from the flue gases. Therefore, what it does is it provides more resistance to the flue gas and reduces its temperature. So it removes the temperature, it removes the heat so that further exposure to the atmosphere is easy. Next one is superheater and preheater. So what about superheater and reheater? So what where you can see a superheater? You can see that superheater is placed just before a turbine and after the boiler. So we know from the boiler, anyways, a high pressure and temperature steam is produced. But this is not just sufficient to increase the overall efficiency. What we can do is we can further pass this steam to a superheater before giving it to the turbine. And this superheater further adds on the heat, it gives more heat and increases the temperature and pressure to a next level. Okay, so that we can have a high temperature steam without any content of moisture. A perfect steam is produced, which is very much reliable for the production of the mechanical energy. Okay, the next part is a condenser. As we have seen that the steam from turbine can be converted to water and further fed to the boiler, right? So before giving it into the boiler, for condensating it or for the conversion of the steam to water, the condenser is used. Turbine, as we know, the steam is getting expanded and further we can produce mechanical energy using the turbine. And next part is coal mill. So this also, like before, feeding the coal into the boiler through the conveyor, it has to be bought into the required size. So all this process of drying, grinding of coal, separation of the particles and forming proper fuel air ratio, all this process takes place in the coal mill. So that is the advantage of the coal mill. And in the coal mill, all the action takes place through grate and stoker system. These are some mechanical structures that is being used. A grate, it is used to have the passage of the air that is required for the primary combustion, initial air. And stoker is again used for feeding the fuel into the boiler and also admitting the air to the fuel for the proper combustion to take place. Okay, alternator, as we know, it is again converting the mechanical energy to the electrical energy.